Hello and welcome to the depths of winter here in beautiful but rather brass monkeys at this time of year, Nova Scotia. And welcome to my new greenhouse. My name is Steve Farley, I'm the optimistic gardener. As you can see outside, there's snow on the ground. We're at this time of the year in January and February, we're most of the time below zero. So there's not a lot to be done in and around the garden. Fortunately I've got this new greenhouse now and I can always keep myself a little bit occupied. At the moment I've been making new plant boxes out of pallets. As you can see here, it keeps me occupied. I've got lots of pallets around the bazaars here. But being the optimistic gardener, I'm thinking about the new season ahead, and even though I'm not into my real sowing of seeds at the moment, probably another month or so before I start sowing seeds, even though I've got a greenhouse, I'm always looking at things to be doing. And my wife doesn't like using the drinking water in our house. We have a well, so we often buy in these plastic containers of water. So in my sort of searching around the internet, I've come upon winter sowing. Now I've never done this before, and the whole premise of the winter sowing is being able to get your seeds sown in the winter. And people are often using these containers. So what we're doing is planting our seeds in these containers, and they're acting as a sort of mini greenhouse. And then you plant them up, stick them outside, and basically leave them on their own to weather this, the cold weather. And we have the top off here, so water gets in. And I think that one of the things of doing this winter sowing is, the seeds are still, even though they're protected in these nice little containers, still have to battle some sort of, the winter conditions, and when they grow up they're going to be sturdier and hardier and quicker to get out. You don't have to harden them off so much before you plant them out, so that's a bonus. Another good thing about this winter sowing is no matter how much space you have, you always don't seem to have enough for all your seed trays and all the different plants that you're bringing on in the spring. So using this method, planting them up in these containers, you can just stick them outside. There's always loads of room in your garden, and that's one thing I do have in this garden, is lots of room. So I can get a load of containers, plant them up, sort of leave the plants to fend for themselves, at least initially, and I'm not taking up much room. So that's another good thing about this winter sowing. The sorts of plants that you want to be sowing in this winter sowing format are sort of hardy annuals, your hardy perennials. Some of you sort of more the hardier vegetables like spinach and broccoli that don't mind a little bit of cold to get them even to start germinating, etc. So those are the sorts of things I'm going to be planting today. I've got on the vegetable front, I've got some broccoli and some spinach I'm going to have a go at, and on the perennial side I've got some aquilegia, some beautiful aquilegia, this pink different type of aquilegia, granny's bonnet we used to call it in the UK, and that's a beautiful sort of mauve colour. So I'm going to try them, and I'll save these seeds from my plants from last year, so that's good. And some lovely cone flowers, some echinacea, that's always a favourite in my garden. So the first thing we need to do is we need to cut this container in half so that the plants, so that we can get the soil in. I don't want to be putting it all in that way. Right, so what do we need? My little experiment so far is I'm going to drill a couple of holes, and I'll tell you why I'm drilling these holes in a few moments, but I'm going to drill a couple of holes about halfway up, and obviously we want to drill some holes in the bottom so that any water can drain through, and it's a good idea to do it before you cut it all up because it's a bit more sturdier. So So I'm going to do that now. Or have I got one? Here is one I made earlier. As you can see, I've drilled a load of holes in the bottom, and I've got those 2 holes here. Now, where's my scissors? Aha! So, what we want to do is, so I've got a good, what's that? About 5 inches, about halfway up this water bottle. I'm going to cut. So I'm going to cut nearly all the way round. Not quite all the way round. Where are we? We want to leave a little flap at the back side so that we can pull it back. Just like that. And then what we want to do, right, this is a tricky bit, is fill up the bottom side with a bit of earth. Any old potting compost. Now, here's a point. This is actual potting compost I had from last year. This may have some peat in it. One of my New Year's resolutions is to not use any compost with peat, or not buy any new compost with peat in it. It's ecologically damaging, the farming of peat. It's not sustainable. I'm going to go into a whole video on the unsustainability of using peat-based composts, and I'm going to be trialling some different methods this year of how to, what I can use instead of peat compost. But this is got a bit of peat in it, so I apologise in advance. I need to be living my own words, but this is from last year's, so I don't want to waste it. So let's fill up this container. I've pre-moistened this in advance. Get that near enough to the top. Give that a bit of a bash. Let's firm this down a touch. So what I will do is I'm going to sow these Aquilegia first. Just give them a, we're not going to overdo it, but might as well make it worth our while. Give them a bit of a sowing. So that's a good few plants in there. Now I'm just going to give it a bit of a cover, not too much, just so they are covered. There we go, job's a good one. Right, I'm going to water these later, because a bit of a schoolboy error, I haven't filled up my watering can. But, right, so that, it's as easy as that really, isn't it? Take the cap off the top, obviously. Now, we want some way of securing this flap, so that, it's going to be outside, wind and the rain, we don't want it knocking off and the place being waterlogged. So a lot of people in my sort of research have been using some sort of tape and just taping it down. Now again, I want to try not to be using any sort of plastic as much as is possible, or reusing things I can. So I did a few experiments before I did this video. So here's one way I found. So what I've done is I've just got some garden string, tied a knot on the back, nice and tight, top and bottom. That's why I drilled those 2 holes either side of the cut. Or another way is, now you might say this is a bit fiddly, but I say it's genius. Bit of locking wire, feed it through the bottom hole, hold up, feed it through the bottom hole, and we'll close the lid and have a bit of a bend in it, feed it through the next hole, and then we just do a twist. Look at that, job's a good one. I like that. So there's that way. Now, did I bring, you could use some sort of plastic twist tie. That's a good way of doing it. Now I did have, aha, now this is off the cuff now, the old plastic thing that goes round your bread. Let's see if this will work. So I'll put that in there like that. Nah, that one's a bit of a malarkey. That's a failure, but you've got to have a try, haven't you? Okay, right, so what we're going to do is I'll feed one of these strings through. Get another one. Feed the other through. And then I'll tie that shut. One. Might as well just put a knot in it. It'll be alright. There you go. That's there. The water can get now inside. I'm going to put that in a sunny but protected, protected from all the winds and that. I've got a nice little sunny area just by the eaves of my woodshed. Last thing we want to do, obviously, is mark it. We want to know what we got here, don't we? So this one was the Aqualesia. And it's as simple as that. Great way, saving space, getting a head start with your planting. It's not too hours intensive. I've literally just done this now. I'm going to stick it over there. I'll have a little look at it every now and then, see how it's getting on. Obviously once they start sprouting in a few weeks time, I want to be making sure that they're damp enough, there's enough water got in there, which should be okay, especially here in Nova Scotia in the winter. We've got plenty of whether it be snow or rain. So there, I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to get on and plant the rest of these vegetables and flowers that I've got, and hopefully I'll be coming back to let you know how I've got on. Let me know if you guys have done this before, and any other tips you might want to share with me that I've sort of missed out here. But I think this is a good way of saving space, getting a head start, and doing something at this time of year when there's not much gardening going on. Job's definitely a good one.